right, so for this next video, what we're going to do is look at intervals below a note. And that's all about inverting an interval. If you're given a note, how do we build or identify a note or interval that is found below? All right, so there's a little bit different thing. Whereas when we were doing above, we can just relate everything to a major scale. Unfortunately, going below, it's a little bit more complicated than that. So what happens is there's a whole process, a very easy step-by-step process in building a note below, building an interval below a given note, all right? So what we're gonna do, I'm just gonna give you one example and we're gonna walk through that step-by-step process. So if you were given an E and was asked to build a major sixth below a note, all right? I'm gonna use an arrow for below. Now you can't just count down and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you're like, wait a minute, G major to E major. I'm not really sure how that all works, right? So what we're gonna do is step one is to invert what we call this, all right? So invert the interval. So to invert it, it's a two-step process. One, we have to invert the quality. So we're going to use this little scale. Major becomes minor, and minor becomes major. Diminished becomes augmented, and augmented becomes diminished. And then perfect actually inverts into perfect. So this is actually what I said in the last video. The reason why we call these perfect intervals is that they invert into other perfect intervals. So that's why they're perfect. Whereas this, if we were to invert a major interval, we're actually going to get a minor interval. All right. So step one is to use this scale and flip-flop your quality here. So major becomes minor. So what we're going to be looking for is a minor something. Now what we do with the number is that we just have to add up to 9. So whatever we have to do to flip it or invert it, we just subtract 9 from this. So 9 minus 6 is 3. So now, if we build a minor third on this E, we're actually going to get, actually let's just do that, right? So a minor third above E. So again, think about our gauge in the last video that I had. If we wanted a minor, we have to go major and then down a half step, right? Major to minor, and then that was augmented and diminished, right? So let's first find major. E has 4 sharps, right? F, C, G, and D, right? So here's our third, 1, 2, 3. G sharp is included. That's a major third. We want minor. We want to go down a half step. So actually we're going to make that sharp a natural. So E to G natural is your minor third. All right, well, it's obvious that this is not a sixth. This is actually our answer that we're trying to get for. So this looks like a third. So what we do to invert or flip our interval is that we take this G natural, I'm going to erase it, and we're going to pop it down an octave to G natural here. All right, and there you go. That's actually your interval below, is to look down now. So double check, always make sure. I've had students in the past look and then all of a sudden I see that they've only written in the above interval as an answer. I am legitimately looking for a note that is a sixth apart, an interval that is a sixth apart, right? If you want to double check your work, make sure everything's good, pretend that you're identifying this interval, right? So you ask yourself, okay, G major to an E, that is a sixth. Does E natural naturally occur in G major? Yes, it does. Major sixth. All right, we're going to do a couple of these together. All right, so let's say that, let's do bass clef for fun. So let's say it's an F. I give you an F, and I want a minor second below. These are all going to be below just for the sake of this video, right? So step one, think about that gauge. Major becomes minor, minor becomes major. All right, so that means what we're going to do is flip this minor into a major, and then we just subtract 9 from this. So 9 minus 2 is 7th. So actually a major second flips into a minor 7th. Minor second flips into a major 7th, right? So now what we're going to do is F. We're going to count up. We're going to find 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, E. and we want major, so we want this E to fit in the key of F major. Does it? Do we have to do anything? Actually, E natural does happen there, all right? And now what we do is the last step is to take this E, erase it, and flip it down the octave to an E. All right, so this is actually, I know it's funny to stack seconds, but that's what we got going. So again, double check, think about the key of E major. E to F sharp is normally major, right? But this is E to F natural, so it's minor. So this is the correct interval. We're gonna do another one. All right, we're gonna do A flat. Ooh, actually I'm gonna do a higher because this is gonna be a larger interval. All right, let's do this A flat. Okay, and I'm gonna ask for a major seventh below, right? So again, step one, flip your quality. Major becomes minor, minor becomes major, right? So this is gonna be minor, and then -9. So 9 minus 7 is 2. So let's first find that minor second above the note. That's gonna be E flat to, E flat, where did that come from? This is an A flat, sorry. A flat to B flat is major, right? But we want minor. So A flat to B double flat is minor, right? Because it went from major down a half step to double flat. And then last but not least, to make this below, we have to flip that down an octave. So I'm gonna erase that. And then I'm gonna put this B here, B double flat, right? So when you flip it, make sure that all of your accidentals stay the same, right? Because a minor second above this note is the same as a major seventh below it, right? So actually in the key of B flat, B double flat major, A flat is your seventh, right? That makes sense. Yeah, you can think that through. All right, awesome. Let's do a harder one. We're gonna actually flip a diminished interval, okay? So let's say we have C sharp, and I would like a diminished fourth below that note, wow. Okay, so think back to that little chart. Major becomes minor, minor becomes major, diminished becomes augmented. So what we wanna do is actually build an augmented fifth, right? Because 9 minus 4 is 5. Above this note first. So C sharp to G, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is a G, right? We want a perfect fifth first, right? So perfect fifth is actually G sharp, because C sharp has all sharps in its key. And we want to augment it, right? So if we want to make a perfect interval augmented, we're going to add a half step to it. So actually, instead of putting two sharps next to each other, that's not really how we write double sharps, which is what we do with the double flats. What we actually do to represent the double sharp is to give it an X, okay? So it's gonna look like this, a little X, okay? That's double sharp. Now what we do to make it below, we take it and we flip that G down the octave, right? There you go. And if you were thinking about it, you can think this through and double check. Think in the key of G double sharp major and C double sharp would actually be that fourth, would be a perfect fourth, and then lowered once to a diminished, which is 1 sharp. All right. And let's do one more example, and this is going to be a perfect. I want to flip a perfect with you. So let's say that I give you a D, I want a perfect fifth below always, and think back to that chart. So major becomes minor, diminished becomes augmented, and then perfects actually become perfect. Okay, so perfect fourth, right? Because the only thing that changes is your rule of 9. So 9 minus 5 is 4. What we're going to do is 1, 2, 3, 4, get a G there, right? And then you ask yourself, in D major, does D naturally occur? Yes, it does. This is a perfect fourth. And then your last step is to actually take that note and flip it down an octave, and you have a perfect fifth. Again, you can check yourself and think, in the key of G major, does D naturally occur? Yes, it does. It's perfect fifth. All good. All right, so that is all about intervals below a note. When identifying, you actually never will run into identifying a note below, because if you were given intervals like this, you can obviously just go by the lowest note. So intervals below are all building, not identifying. Okay, great.